Good morning, everyone. Friday morning we've reached, and it's the final morning briefing of the week with me, Hamish. Tony is here as well. Hello, Tony.
How are you, Hamish? All good here?
I'm all good. How was Lisbon, by the way? I've not spoken to you about that.
Brilliant. It's a rites of passage. Everybody has to do it as a Celtic supporter. I can't recommend it highly enough. It was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed the experience, as did my father and my brother and my nephew. Yeah, it was great.
How was, were you at the game where Casper
I
picked up
was
his
in the game.
injury as
Yeah,
well? Yeah,
yeah.
strange.
That was it was. It wasn't nice to see that, but what an incredible game of football. It was magic, and the atmosphere was great because where we were sitting, we weren't far from the actual goal where Ronaldo missed the penalty, but the Danish fans were above us, so they created a brilliant atmosphere. It was really good, really enjoyed that as well. That was a great experience too. Just a worthwhile trip, tremendous.
Excellent. Great stuff. Okay, fabulous. Tony's on. Good morning, everyone. How are you all getting on? Lovely to have you with us on this Friday morning as we look ahead to Celtic's trip to St Johnstone on Sunday. There's some news happening as well. Got a few things written down. Before we get started, just a quick word from our sponsor. This Celtic Way video is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. We also have this still going. In fact, it's only just started, but people should definitely get involved because you don't know when this kind of offer will end, Tony, and it's a great offer.
Oh, brilliant. This is the Celtic Way latest offer. It's £1 for 6 months of access to all subscribers, and it's the Jota print as well. There you have it, the iconic raised fist salute celebration against Rangers when he scored that wonderful goal. I put it on Twitter this morning, Hamish, and I said, "You've come back for a second Celtic stint. Jota is in print. Jota is in print." So I think everybody should take up that offer. It's by renowned football artists, made by Frankie, the latest in a series, and I think you'll all agree. I think that's a wonderful souvenir and a cracking print to have. So £1 for 6 months of access to everything that we do on the site. The site speaks for itself. I think some quality work on there from everybody involved, yourself, myself, Ryan McGinley, John McGinley, and various contributors like Alan Morrison and Stuart Ross.
Yeah, and as you say, yeah, the Jota print is great, but I think the even better bargaining, no disrespect to Made by Frankie, whose stuff is incredible, but I do think the work that you guys do and all the articles you get, etc., and all the kind of exclusive stuff you get is well worth £1 for 6 months, and of course you get that wonderful image as well. So good stuff. Okay, that's the housekeeping taken care of. How are you, Tony? What's in your mind, Celtic-wise?
Celtic-wise, looking forward to Sunday. I prefer games on a Saturday, but Sunday, so be it. But yeah, I'm just a bit miffed that it was meant to be the one where Celtic clinched the title, wasn't it, if they defeated Rangers? So a wee bit miffed at that, but it'll still be good to see. I think Celtic are still going to have 3 stands, aren't they?
Yep.
And so it'll be great. It'll be a great atmosphere there, and if they win that, then it's 2 to go, isn't it? 2 league games, 2 league wins they'll need after that. So yeah, listen, just tick them off now, and looking forward to Sunday. And I think they'll take care of business against St Johnstone, as we spoke about on Monday. I'm not too sure St Johnstone will want to play too much of a hand, considering we played them in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Could be wrong in that, but I remember Dunfermline coming to Celtic Park and winning many years ago, prior to the Scottish Cup final. I think
Jimmy 04?
Yeah, Jimmy Calderwood's team won 2-1 at Celtic Park. And everyone said they'd peaked in, and then Henrik's kind of crowning moment of glory, wasn't it? When Big Bobo punched the ball away and should have had a penalty against us at 1-0 down, but thankfully the referee didn't see that, and then Henrik did his thing, and it was all over Bala shouting after that. But yeah, so sometimes these things can go for teams like St Johnstone or Dunfermline are against them. If they come out and win the game, Celtic will still be the overwhelming favourites for the semi. But I still want Celtic, as we said Monday, to finish the season in style, go and win the rest of the games. That's the challenge, I think.
Not to go too off topic, but I found myself in a bit of a YouTube hole earlier on this morning, where I ended up watching loads of Henrik Larsson videos and the video of his final competitive game at Celtic Park against Dundee United, where he scored a couple of goals, and then the emotional scenes afterwards, and then it kind of, it takes you from video to video.
Yeah.
The algorithm ended up on the run to Seville and some of our amazing moments there. And it was a fun wee half an hour I spent just watching videos of before I actually followed Celtic. But God, I'm pretty jealous of people who followed the team back in the early few years of the century, because God, amazing memories back then. But it was a good time.
I've written about it extensively, and as I've explained before, one of the great career highs of myself was describing all of his goals, and he signed it for me, and just a priceless souvenir. But like that, as you say, you watched the video highlights reel and you down the rabbit hole. But as I was describing them, I can remember them all. It's strange, and you just pick them out in the Rolodex in your head. You just flick to whenever. That's why I can talk about 2004 Cup Final, because I can picture those goals. And I remember speaking to 7 defenders that had played against them for a feature I did for the Celtic Way. And Jim Laughlin spoke about a goal he scored against Dundee United, a header, and it was an incredible header. I mean, just an impossible angle he scored. And Jim Laughlin said the same. He said, I don't know how he scored that. I just don't know. He said, and I was marking him. He says, and he just flew from nowhere and get his head onto this ball. He said, and the goalkeeper just stood there, went into his near post. It's a brilliant goal. You might have seen that, you might not have, but that's by and by. And he said he walked in and he expected a rollicking from Alex Smith. And Alex Smith took him aside and just said, I think sometimes you just have to bow to a genius. He said, that man's a genius. He says, you can't mark a genius. And Jimmy the Lock, as he was known, just like that. He just went, thanks, Gaffer. Thought I was going to get. He says, well, what can I do against that? And it was a similar diving header to the one he scored for Sweden in terms of the kind of the aerial takeoff. I mean, it was incredible. An incredible goal. And now and again, these things flick through your mind, and I've said this many times, Hamish. Henrik Larsson, Lubomir Moravcik, for me, since the turn of the century, for the sheer unbridled joy and the happiness that, the smile wells up in your face whenever you mention those two guys, but particularly Larsson. And that day, Larsson scored his 50th and Lubo scored twice at Ibrox. You just smile at these memories because they were two players who lifted Celtic out of the ordinary at that time. And there's that horrible picture of Henrik Larsson staring at UEFA Cup in Seville, tears welling up, and every Celtic supporter just felt the same. That's why they were so delighted when he got his hands on the big one, because it's something he deserved from his club career, and you just wish it was with Celtic, winning a European trophy with Celtic. But listen, the mere mention of guys like Henrik and Lubo, and you go down that rabbit hole. You don't want to come out that rabbit hole when you go down it, because you just think next video.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'd still be there if I didn't have work to do. I saw Chris Sutton speaking earlier, and I don't know if these were old or new quotes, but I think he was basically saying that Dyson Maeda is up there with Henrik and Lubo in terms of value for money. I only half glanced at it, so I could be doing him a slight misquoting or whatever there, but you'd certainly give that. The other thing you wanted to bring up, is there something about Kieran Tierney and Henrik Larsson?
Yeah, Kieran Tierney's on Arsenal TVs saying that Henrik Larsson texted him during a tough time at Arsenal, and I just think that shows you the mark of the man. And he said they're kind of still in regular touch, and I just think that's brilliant. Henrik Larsson is still Celtic centric, all over what's happening at the football club. He said it was the best 7 years he had in his career and where he made his name. And you only need to look at the reception he got when he came home, when he was in the Hydro that night, and he was very touched by that. But I just think that's a touch of class. And for someone like Kieran Tierney, who would have grown up idolising Henrik like many supporters, to get a text like that and to be in not constant touch, but regular touch with someone like that is just, for me, it's brilliant. And it's great for Henrik to sort of reach out and say, look, you've still got so much to offer. you're still a cracking player. And clearly they've had a chat about the fact that Kieran Tierney's going home to where he's loved, and nobody was loved more in recent memory than Henrik Larsson. So I think that'll all work out well.
It's going to be amazing seeing Kieran Tierney back in the hoops. Like, that is something that I think we've all got in our minds, but you're kind of parking it for now because we've got stuff to achieve between now and the end of the season. But what a lovely start that's going to be to pre-season. The fact that he's signed, that he's going to be with us from the very start of pre-season. You're going to get an interview with him, probably a press conference in, I don't know, mid-June, earlier than that possibly.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it'll be kind of mid-June, won't it? And we've got that to look forward to next season. So that's great. Okay, a few people talking about this kit. Helen's mentioned, what does everyone think of this new top which Jota was wearing? I don't think we were meant to see this, Tony, but we have. It's been, I think, leaked by someone of some sort. We're not quite sure who, but it's certainly doing the rounds now. So we had the image of Jota, and I think what we can confidently say is going to be a Celtic kit next season, and a away kit potentially. I did call it like a Bumblebee kit earlier, but I've received a bit of backlash on my own channel for that. People saying it's nothing like a Bumblebee. I don't know if that's what Adidas were going for. It's certainly those kind of colours, but have you seen this, and what do you make of it?
I think it's a kind of a take on a similar theme, isn't it? It might not be the Bumblebee per se, but it's the same kind of colour scheme, isn't it? That kind of tennis ball green or tennis ball yellow and black, so it's just a variation in a similar theme was the words I was looking for there. So yeah, I mean, Celtic tops it will sell. Let's put it that way. People will buy that. I think it's I don't own Celtic tops. I've said this before, except the one that I was given as a gift when I left the Daily Record with Scott Brown's signature and Neil Lennon's signature on it, because they were the captain and manager of the club at the time, and I was gifted that. So that's all that I have in terms of that. I've often said that they should stop Celtic kits. Should make them for when you're like 21, and that's it. 21 and under. It's just my own personal thoughts about stuff like that. But listen, if you want to buy the new kit, it's always going to look good on Jota, isn't it? Because Jota's a superstar, and he's also available in print, made by Frankie. If you subscribe to the channel, see, I did there. Nice wee segue, like. But yeah, so listen, each to their own. People want to buy the kit. It's always going to be divisive. People will like it, some people won't. But my first impressions are that it's okay. It's a fairly inoffensive kit. I don't look at it and think, oh no. I looked at it and thought, that's okay. That's quite smart. So yeah, but again, going back to it, I won't be buying it unless it's for a gift for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hazel saying depends what bumblebees are like in Australia. Hamish, listen, fair point. I might have had a bit of a nightmare here earlier, because it's just one of those things. Sometimes you don't properly think about what you're doing. I think it had been reported in November that we're going to get a Bumblebee kit next season. So I don't know if that is it from Adidas. If it is, it's probably not what people would expect him. Will we get something else? I certainly quite like the look of it, but as you say, Jota could probably make anything look good. It was the Bumblebee. Was it the Bumblebee he wore? I think it was to
the Brazen Head.
Pub, Brazen Head that time.
And then scored with the Brazen Header.
A few days later.
Yes, as I put out on Twitter, the Brazen Header. So, yes, indeed. But as I say, he would look good in anything. I mean, he rocked the double denim that day as well, didn't he? And then had the Bumblebee kit on. So he's just a superstar, and in every kind of way, it's he makes you sick, doesn't he? It's really, he's like, must be murdered being Jota.
I know, hard life for him. But anyways, he's been good for us so far. I don't know whether I should have brought this up or not. The league reconstruction stuff, I guess, is going on. It certainly has been the big talking point this week in not just Celtic circles, but Scottish football. The latest here is that apparently the 10-team league isn't going to be a goer. I think St Johnstone have publicly come out against it, saying that they think the league should be getting bigger rather than smaller. So I think Sky Sports are among those reporting that it's unlikely to get enough votes to pass the 10-team solution. So they're potentially looking at I saw they're looking at the novel idea of a 12-team league, Tony, which kind of seems quite familiar. So I don't know if they're going to just change out the amount of times you play each team, or I don't know what they're going to throw in. I think 14-team league, 16-team league being discussed as well. I've made my stance very clear in this, that personally I'm not really too fussed about what the league looks like. It's going to be very similar for me as a Celtic fan, and that I'm probably going to see Celtic winning it most seasons. Have you got any strong feelings on any of this stuff this week?
No, I think every year it comes around, doesn't it? League reconstruction.
It does.
We've never found the perfect solution yet. Everybody throws up problems. They never give you answers, do they, or solutions to it. And, personally, I'd be all for expanding the league, Hamish. But it's all premised on having 4 Celtic Rangers games this season. And when broadcasters want that, then, it's difficult to come up with the perfect league structure and format in terms of reconstruction. I was always in favour of a possible 16-team league, play each other twice, and then you can maybe have a split after 32 games and take it from there. And split 8 and 8 might be an uneven number of games after that. I get that, but so I think all of these things were to try and lessen the load of league games, weren't they? But every time we talk about it, we end up talking about having more league games or the same amount of league games, and then people having league games so many away from home and so many at home. It's difficult, but it just seems to come on the agenda every year, and it's always the same kind of thing that clubs at the bottom are going to veto it, aren't they? But I think all the top clubs put the rules in place, didn't they, when they created the SPL and the Scottish Premiership, that they needed to vote, was it 11 out of 12 or something like that? Yeah, so listen, they made the road for their own backs with that kind of stuff, but I can understand it coming on the agenda every year. But I don't know about you, but you get bored of it, don't you? Pretty quickly. I don't care what the league set up is. As I say, Celtic will just, whatever they do, and as you say, they're going to be in with a shout with winning it every other year, regardless of the structure. So I don't have any strong feelings towards a particular setup in general. I just know the broadcasters want 4 Celtic Rangers games a year, and everything else is premised after that.
Well, for a fact that Brendan Rodgers is going to be asked about it today at his press conference, and we'll probably have something to say on it. But I just wonder, if like a 14-team league might be the possible solution here, and you could have like a kind of top 6 and a bottom 8, and potentially the bottom 8 play more matches, but they wouldn't be the ones playing in Europe. Certainly not to the kind of Europe after January. So I wonder if that could potentially be the solution. But this is going to drag on and on. I kind of feel like they might end up just not doing anything with it. But there's clearly an issue of too many matches being played. We know how busy a period it was for Celtic between November and basically just a couple of weeks ago, and we had a couple of games every single week, and that was without any real postponements. I think there was one, was at the game at Celtic Park for the Storm. So it's a tricky situation, but as I say, I'm sure Brendan Rodgers will be asked about it today. What else will he be asked? There'll be an injury update, I guess, although he's answered some of the Kasper Schmeichel stuff, but not in front of the media.
Yeah, he'll be asked about that, won't he? They'll try to pin him down on a date for Kasper Schmeichel's return.
5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, so do the maths on that. Hopefully back for the Scottish Cup final. But I'm of the opinion that if Sinazalo is doing well, then I would keep him there and let him experience the Scottish Cup final. I wouldn't want to rush Kasper back, and I get that he's a highly experienced goalkeeper, but Sinazalo needs to get used to playing big games. He's going to play in the semi-final, and if he comes through it like he did the Hearts game, I thought he was really excellent in the Hearts game. I really did. Concentration levels in those opening minutes where he could have lost a goal or second to none. He had a couple of good saves, a couple of good things that he did. And, and then in the second half, he was a virtual spectator, but he did a couple of things that I thought, you know what, you're on the money, you're clearly training and learning, and you are playing the Celtic way when you've got your opportunity there. So I was quite, I wasn't apprehensive because I'd heard the manager speaking about him, but it's always the same when you change a goalkeeper and you think, what's he going to bring? But I was really chuffed with what he brought, and quietly effective, Hamish. And I'd like to see him be quietly effective from now till the end of the season, because he's going to have to go to Ibrox and keep goal, isn't he? And if he can come through that kind of test, then I would have no qualms about playing him in the Scottish Cup final and just saying to Casper, get yourself fit for the start of next season. That's just the way I look at it. I think Sinazalo's now got his chance, and you run with him now.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly going to get the next 4 to 5 weeks. I think there's a fair chance that Ibrox is part of that. Casper, I mean, we don't know when the final derby of the season will be. Maybe a chance Casper would be back for that, but probably at the moment you'd be saying that Sinazalo will be in for that. So that's going to be a huge test. The cup semi is going to be a huge test, and it's just about seeing what he can bring. It's a weird one because you don't necessarily want him to be tested, do you? But also, it'd be good to see him tested and see him make a few saves, because we've seen him in a couple of games, and I know he made one early on against Hearts. I think that was a fairly routine save. So you'd quite like him to be tested, but also you don't really want Celtic to be giving up potential opportunities. But I'm sure over the next 4 to 5 weeks we'll get a better idea of Sinazalo. What I want to come out of this period, and I do think Kasper Schmeichel will come back and probably go in pretty much straight away. That's just my own personal thoughts, but I'd love to feel confidence in Sinazalo that he could be our successor to Kasper, maybe at the end of next season, and just really feel good about that. And then ideally, if it goes well this season, you ramp up Sinazalo's game time next season, you give him the cup matches, which I think might have been the plan anyway. I saw some Brendan Rodgers comments when he was saying basically the first season for Sinazalo was just about coming into a big club and just kind of watching more than anything. And maybe his second season he would play a bit more. So he's obviously getting more matches than anyone thought he would. And hopefully he can do well, and we really kind of feel like we've got something special there.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved Kasper Schmeichel. I've loved what he brought. I hated seeing him getting injured in that Portugal game. And I just don't want to take any unnecessary risk with him. I speak about it a lot. You sometimes have to save players from themselves, but Kasper's the kind of guy that will want to come back in. He won't want to miss the cup final. I totally understand that, and I get that, but I just wouldn't take any risk with him at all, because you want him to play next season and not be affected by anything. And I just want to see how good Sinazalo is. I think it's an ideal opportunity just to see how good and how he can cope with the likes of Ibrox, a Scottish Cup semi-final and a potential final. I'd be interested in seeing that for myself, because we know Kasper Schmeichel can cope. So he just needs to get himself fit. That's my thinking behind that. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Schmeichel come back in for the cup final and stuff like that. But
if we get there.
Aye, if we get there, yeah. If Celtic get there, sorry, premised on that, yeah. Correct.
Just because if I didn't say it, someone else would in the comments. Henry McClarson asking, does Kuhn start? I think Kuhn will start against St Johnstone. To be honest, like, it's with this one game a week thing, and given that we were pretty good against Hearts, I'm kind of struggling to think of any curveballs I would throw in there.
I think Kuhn's starting to show a wee bit more. He certainly showed a wee bit more against Hearts, didn't he? His form had gone off a cliff. I think everybody was recognised that. But he showed a wee bit more against Hearts, and kind of getting back to the Kuhn of, the start of the season. But again, we need it ramped up again. He has to ramp it up again in Perth. and then ramp it up again at Hampden if he's selected for that, which I'm sure he will be. As you say, I don't see many curveballs in, and at this stage in the season where there is only one game a season, there's no excuse for Celtic not to perform now. They've got all week to prepare, and they know what the manager wants, so go out there and do it and bust through the tape, as he's quite fond of saying, sprint to the finishing line. And I'm looking for a very good performance in Perth, and the record against St Johnstone recently has been very good. We spoke about the 6-0 game back in, was it September? September time, wasn't it? When they hit a high that night.
Seems a long time ago, that, doesn't it? Like, that was just before Dortmund.
Yeah, and we even had Alex Vai doing tricks, didn't we?
Remember Alex Vai?
Yeah, so that seems like an age away, doesn't it? But that was a wonderful goal that he helped create that night, and scored some cracking goals. Kyogo was on the score sheet as well, so it does seem like an age away, doesn't it? But a very, very good Celtic performance, one of the best this season domestically, and I'd like to see a repeat of that.
Yeah, I think we all would. Just a wee update. I was just looking there. Daizen Maeda, perhaps unsurprisingly, is the Premiership Player of the Month for March, obviously. And he won it in February as well. So back to back for Daizen, and you'd probably fancy him to make it 3 in a row. You certainly fancy him for a goal or two on Sunday.
Well, he fancies himself for a hat-trick, doesn't he? So would you bet against that? He's just been terrific. He's it's not even a purple patch. He's just been terrific. Back-to-back Player of the Month says it all, doesn't it? I don't think there was any other candidate that comes close. Maybe others would argue Iko Raskin for Rangers. Fine. It just depends what side of that particular dividing fence you're on, Hamish. But I know he would have been thrown into the mix as a potential candidate. But we've said since Monday that this guy's an outstanding candidate for Player of the Year. Never mind Player of the Month. He should sweep the boards at the Player of the Year awards, because he has been the true definition of a Footballer of the Year. I think Ryan said he's the most improved player under Brendan Rodgers, which I take on board, but I just think he's been sensational, and a guy who has stepped up to the plate ever since Kyogo left, with the minimum of fuss and the maximum of effort, because that's what he gives you, and no shortage of coolness, calmness and composure when he gets in the final third and gets in front of goal, and his repertoire of goals that have made him the outstanding candidate. We spoke about them the other day. He's got everything in his locker. I can understand why Chris Sutton said those comments about him. And remember, he played alongside Larsson. He was Larsson's right-hand man, and he played in a team with Lubomir Moravcik. So I think the point he's making here is that for value for money, he is one of the best Celtic signings. He's not comparing them in terms of ability, but he's sort of saying that Daizen Maeda is not shorn of ability like these two that we mentioned earlier in the programme. So I can understand why he said that. And if someone like Chris Sutton's saying that, then he's a good judge of a footballer. So I kind of take that on board.
Yeah, and there just feels a sense of inevitability with Daizen at the moment, that he'll start on Sunday, and you fancy him for certainly for at least a goal. He's going to be creating chances, because just his movement is unbelievable. Like, and his movement and his movement and his anticipation, probably slightly overlooked at times, just given that we view him as, like, obviously this bundle of energy who can complete 40-odd sprints in a match, more than double your average player. But his movement to, like, get on the end of passes and to time his runs is excellent. Like, right up there with Kyogo, who for me was the best I'd seen since Larsson, probably. And I think Maeda's right up there. So, exciting stuff.
I didn't think... I think a lot of Celtic support didn't think they would get a player who had as good a movement as Kyogo when Kyogo left. Didn't realise he was underneath their nose, because the problem is you don't notice that a lot when he's out on the left wing. Movement and all that kind of stuff, and the sharpness and the clarity of thought in a split second. You know, you look at that run on Saturday from Callum McGregor's pass. Granted, the pass has to be good, but you know, he's right onto it. And then the way he opens up his body, knows exactly what he's going to do as he's bearing down on goal. Previously, the Dyson Maida cutting in from the left might have missed that. He might have skied it. He might have, you know. So that's clearly something that he's worked on with the manager, because the manager said to him, "There's a finisher in you. You know, just bring it all together." And I made the point that the 2.5 seasons before he had scored 29, and he surpassed that total in one campaign alone. So that shows you, whatever Brendan Rodgers is selling, Dyson Maida's buying, but he's also got it into his head as well that I need to be more clinical in front of goal. And it's that sharpness, that movement, that, you know, just that split second to think about things. And he's been absolutely terrific. You cannot overemphasise how good this player has been for Celtic this season, and his all-round game. You know, you know you're always going to get effort and that selfless way that he plays for his football team, but to add that clinical edge as well it's actually been a joy to watch. It's been not so much a tremendous transformation. It's always been there, but you just kind of think, wow, you know. And for me, moving forward, which the manager touched on it, I think Celtic should sign a winger, because Dyson Maida's a bona fide number 9 for me now.
Yeah,
I don't know. You know, there might be other times when you might want to play him out in the wing, which is fair enough. He can do that, but he's a certain Celtic striker now, isn't he? Surely.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be taking a guy who's scored 17 goals in 17 games away from being a forward and moving back to the left wing. I'm pretty sure we're not going to see that. I think Brendan Rodgers has kind of alluded to that when he's saying that it's easier to sign a winger than a forward. And I tend to agree with that. I think there's probably more options for wingers for a club like Celtic than... I mean, you're talking Dyson Maida. If you have Maida as a striker next season, injury-free, I think you're guaranteed 30 goals again, at least. How much would it cost to sign a player who would score that up front? I think it would cost more to do that than to sign another winger.
And do you know what I think would be good? I think Adam Maida can learn from Dyson Maida and flick the narrative around on him. He's still got 14 goals this season, Adam Maida.
Yeah.
And when he came on and led the line, of late he's looked very strong. His link-up play's been better. So there's a penny dropping with him as well. Granted, it maybe not manifested itself in terms of goals per se, but I'm starting to like because he's clearly watching this guy and he's thinking that. I remember writing something about him, saying, you know, him and Adam Maida and Dyson Maida were interviewed after one again. I think it was the Hibs quarter final, and Adam Maida spoke at great length about Dyson Maida, how good he was, his movement and all this, and his value to the team. And I said Adam Maida should listen to the playback in that and apply everything that he said to himself. And I think he kind of has, and he's starting to show signs for me that, you know, there's a penny drop in there, and you know he has to bring more to the table. But as I say, that the return of 14 goals is decent enough for the minutes he's played. And I also think Adam Maida's a big game player. His performances in bigger games have been better. So
Villa Park,
So
Hampden.
I'm enthused and encouraged by that. But he's clearly looking at Dyson Maida and thinking, okay, I can learn here. I'm going to watch you and I'm going to study you. And that's what he should be doing. And hopefully the manager's saying that to him as well, because he will get his chance.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it there. Tony, enjoy Sunday. You're going to be at the game for the Celtic Way. There'll be videos surrounding that. Plenty more on the website as well. Everyone, as we said earlier, we've got this great offer running £1 for 6 months of access, plus a free Jota print from renowned football artist made by Frankie. So great stuff. Appreciate it, Tony. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll speak to you next on